Let's do it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cat Talk Radio. I'm your host, Molly DeVos, and today I have with me none other than Jackson Galaxy. Welcome back to the show, Jackson.
None other. Thank you. Thank you for having me again, Molly. It's good to see you.
Of course, every cat enthusiast in the world knows who you are. It's no introduction needed, right?
And it's well, thank you for saying that. I feel like over the past couple of years and not having the space to see people face to face, it's weird. You forget. So
Yeah.
thank you.
It is. And so the number one question is, what is Jackson doing now? So is My Cat from Hell still on, or what's going on there?
It lives on in constant reruns. But no, the last episode that we did was right after the pandemic started. We did sort of a pandemic episode where the whole thing was like this. It was just completely remote. Uh, it was odd. We filmed here in the house, and which I was always a little wary of, and it went fine. It just that was it. I mean, we really just felt like that format that took us 10 seasons actually
Wow.
was just done. So that was weird for a minute because I spent so much of my life shooting that show, as you know,
Yeah.
shooting that show because you were on it. But um, yeah, and then it came down to sort of rearranging priorities and figuring out how to navigate my work through the pandemic. Um, and we talked before about how hard it is to do the work that we do and not be able to have that face-to-face, family-to-family experience of being in their homes. And so I started doing virtual consults, and it took some getting used to. But it's been good. It's been good. There's still some help to give. Um, I've been leaning into YouTube. We've really kicked up our YouTube presence a lot, and it's been a great way. Actually, to me, it's even better than the experience with the show in a way because it's immediate. You do the things that people are asking you to do. We have full control editorially and visually and vibe wise that maybe we didn't have with the show. And yeah, so we've been doing a lot of that. I've been able to lean into the work with Jackson Galaxy Project, which is something that was always sort of competing for time, the work I do with Greater Good. So we were able to really start to do some really cool work around that and writing a new book. So
Okay. What's your
it's a
new book
bunch.
going to be about? Yeah, it's a bunch.
The book, it's in its sort of stage where I'm writing too much and just trying to get a feel for it. But the idea is um, finding ways to, in an organic way, to celebrate cats in a way that it. I mean, it's sort of a personal journey story. After all of these sort of books where it's very directly putting it out to the world, this is sort of returning to me as what I was before I ever started this whole thing, which is a writer, and just getting my mojo back as a writer, and at the same time acknowledging that in a time of social separation and isolation, and still doing our work with fosters and whatnot, that it was hard. And I don't know if you've been through this before, but it was hard not to. And because you deal with cats in quantity, working for shelters, that what I'm talking about, where there comes this moment where it just becomes work, that you've lost that almost primal connection that you feel to these particular animals and about the relationship you have to each one of them. And suddenly you're just doing so much, it's just work. And I wanted to go and rediscover that and rediscover the thing that made me obsessed. It's been 30 years.
Yeah.
There comes a moment you know.
Yeah.
But it was really like, it was horrifying to me to think for a second that, you know, maybe I've done what I can do and I need to find something else with my life because I don't feel vital and I don't feel connected. And I don't feel like I'm doing each individual animal that's passing through my house as a foster justice. And and then yeah, looking outside of me, looking at different things that have gone on in the world that reaffirm. And so that's kind of what the book is about.
Well, I can't wait to read that. Because I
Me
think
neither.
people tell me all the time, you should write a book, and I'm like, what the hell am I going to write about? Because like between Jackson and Pam Johnson, like all the good cat behavior stuff's already been said, So I don't really feel like I need to contribute in that way. So I'm looking for a topic that nobody's done before, in that cat behavior, of course, arena. And so yeah, I've been kicking that around too. But like making space in life right now to write a book, I just laugh because
It's ridiculous to think about. I mean, I'm somebody who likes to work too much. Like I don't carve out enough time for quiet. But when I do get those moments of quiet, I just make it available in my head. And sometimes all of a sudden it just happens, but you got to be able to create that headspace, and it's
yeah,
really hard. It's
yeah,
it's really hard.
yeah,
But I remember that, and I think that this is a common feeling for everybody when we were locked down for a while, which is, wow, where's the joy in my life?
yeah,
And if you don't have that sense of like, I'm connected, there's a connection that I have to whatever the source is in your life, that without it, I'm just blown in the wind. And for me, writing is that thing, playing music is that thing. And of course, spending quality time here with my wife and my animals has to be a good thing. So
yeah.
tough, man. It's tough to find that space.
It is, and as you said, I mean, I can relate to how you're feeling because I do see so many cats in the shelter. I mean, a lot of cats, and and the volunteers will email me and say, "Well, how is this cat doing in its barn cat placement or something like that? Can you reach out and follow up?" And I'm like, first of all, I'm finding that I'm having trouble remembering once the individual cats are placed, safe, rehabilitated, no longer on the behavior radar. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And I feel a little bad about that sometimes, because I think I used to just really stay connected with these cats, but then I didn't have so many, that I was dealing with. So between
Yeah.
the behavior cats and the shelter cats and the foster cats, and it's just, yeah, it can really get overwhelming. It really can.
I think that one of the things that I found that really, again, speaks back to that connection to source for me is I started this whole journey as a shelter worker. It's always stayed with me. JGP, Jackson Galaxy Project, as you know, like is about that dual connection. And I really, the stuff I'm working on now is about, as opposed to just, which I'll never give up, but one cat at a time.
Yeah.
It's about who can we pass this on to, who
Mm.
feels empowered enough to do the work that we don't either have time or bandwidth to do. And which also makes people feel vital. It makes them feel like they've truly got something to contribute. And it keeps our work going after we can't do it anymore.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's been really great to reconnect and yeah, I mean the work I'm doing shelter wise, and planning some stuff that I really do think will make me feel like I've contributed in a larger way. Because yeah, we can't do it. I mean,
Mm.
I just want the space for connection with individuals, human and animal, and then to feel like we're contributing in a wider sense. I mean, you're dealing with one of the singular largest shelters in the United States, let alone municipalities. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, Dallas has actually gotten things pretty much under control since they're returning to home all stray community cats that come in. So really all we're dealing with there are owner surrenders. And that's a much more manageable number, you know. Albuquerque, on the other hand, we're temperament testing for return to field cats. So, you know, we're not quite there yet.
yeah, that's tough.
Oh,
That's tough.
not yeah. So there's a lot of cats. I mean, I think there's over 300 cats in inventory at that shelter, which is just an insane number. And
But if you look at the great thing about return to shelter at this, I mean, return to field at this point, is that there is Dallas, great example, but every municipality who has embraced it has seen their live release numbers go, and
Mhm.
their euthanasia rates go down. Everybody, and dramatically.
Yeah,
Um, so there comes this point where you, as a municipality, you have to go, why are we doing this?
yeah,
You
exactly. And and Albuquerque really doesn't euthanize a lot of cats, but they're warehousing them. And it just kills me. I'm thinking, is this cat happier in this 2x4 box? Or is it happier being back where it came from when you found it? And I
yeah,
think that answer is simple. That cat is much happier being, even if it's an indoor outdoor cat, that not every cat can have an indoor home and be the kind of cat you or I would raise.
yeah, right. I think
So,
that understand. What's funny is that, and of course, I am for everybody who works with me or who adopts through us or does whatever. I'm pretty hardcore about keeping your cats in. But if
mhm.
you look outside of our culture, and you go most any place else in the world, they think we're crazy.
Yes, I know.
It's a cultural thing, and I think that depending, I've been in countries before that you would or I would look at and go, oh my god, that's not okay, but it's the way they define okay, and then we can sort of tweak it. But I think that the recognition in general that community cats are just that. That as long as we maintain the colonies, TNR everybody, make sure they've got warm housing, make sure that we are there are two different ways of loving cats, right? There's the ones within your four walls, there's the ones that are out there, but we can show love to both of them.
Right.
And I think that is a long way from being completely embraced, but at least we have a simple message to put out there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we were talking about remote consults before we got on the show. And it is I agree with you. When COVID started and we couldn't do consults in homes, I was just like how am I going to pick up on the energy that's going on in the house? How am I just going to see that cat moving in its natural environment and doing what it does? And how is it going to react to a stranger coming in the home? All those things that are just important to
Right.
see when you're there. But I've gotten much more comfortable with it. Much more comfortable and do consults like as you do all over the nation. So it's
Yeah. I
hard.
mean, you got to keep your mind, or I'm talking to me at this point. You got to sort of keep your mind on, okay, what is the benefit versus me digging my heels in and saying I will never do remote consults because I was there, where I didn't feel like I could give my eh, I'm not like a I'm not like a scientist. I'm not that kind of behavior specialist. I rely a lot on the individual cat themselves and how I interact with them, and in turn, the family dynamic, because we are just as much family therapists in a way
Oh yeah.
as anything else. And not being able to be there in the room is hard work, man. But I have seen payoff. I have seen um, because I don't know if you saw this, but there was very specific challenges relationship wise and behavior wise that were unique to the pandemic
Mhm.
and people being home a whole lot more. and what that meant, and also adopting new animals or fostering animals, which we saw a dramatic rise in. And so that there were challenges. And so, us being able to do remote meant that these animals stayed in their homes and stayed happy. So, or
Yeah.
to the ability. Yeah.
And now I got one for you. And of course, asking behavior consult questions is, I know, silly because you can't have all the information, but you actually referred a lady to me in Dallas that was having trouble integrating her cats. And the long and short of it is she's got a 19-year-old cat and a probably 10, 11-year-old cat that's having some health issues, and then a 2-year-old cat. And of course, right? Yeah, exactly. It's like, And so she's been trying to integrate these cats forever. And they did a really good job. Visual barrier door, cats in there, all of that. But the 2-year-old is an overstimulated cat, just in general, even without the other two cats. But, one of those guys that'll get all overstimulated and then, kind of lash out, even at the people. And so they've been doing lots of prey play, lots of trying to distract him, diffuse that energy, that kind of thing. But he just insists when he sees those other two cats on, tackling them because he's two. and,
Yeah.
and that's what he does. And I finally gotten to the point with her where I've said, I think we need to manage your expectations, because you're not going to make your 2-year-old cat without that enthusiasm and wanting to rough and tumble with the other cats. That's what he wants to do. I don't really think it's a territorial thing. I think it's just, I'm a young overstimulated cat, and there's
Yeah.
something moving, I'm going to go get it. And so sadly, I told him, I think you're probably going to have to manage space in the house, and that these cats probably will have to live, separately, or at least through a visual barrier, until he ages. They pass. I mean, they can't live that much longer at 19 and 10 with health issues. But do you run into that mismatched play style and mismatched aging a lot? And are there things people can do to try to fix that?
Well, I mean, there's a number of things. I mean, I think the awareness in general, both on our side and on the shelter side or the rescue side, to not let that happen in the first place, I think is important. I mean, it's just a bad match.
Yeah, this was a rescue up the street. All right. Somebody in the neighborhood found him, and she thought she was doing the right thing by taking him in, because the finder said they were going to take him to the shelter. And I told
Yeah,
her, I said, well, if he'd have taken him to the shelter, he would have been neutered and returned to where they found him and probably got back to his home. But
right. I
water
mean,
under
I,
the bridge.
I think what you're saying is totally valid, that we keep them separate and site swap. Make sure everybody has access to the house, but not all the time together. I think I think many people see that as a failure, and I don't necessarily agree. It depends on your household and what you want to happen and what your expectations as the guardian is in the first place. If you see it as a failure, then we have another discussion to have. I even do separation in this house, not with cats, but we have to rotate. We have two very large dogs, and one who, while still a little unpredictable with cats, also is 15 years old and has dementia. And so she just, so we have to do some switching because that's what we have to do. In a more long-term, here's the story. I'm trying to keep this as generic as possible to keep my clients safe, but I'm working with a client right now. She is close to 80 years old. It was not a good placement. She doesn't have any other cats in the house, but she adopted, at that point, he was about 6 to 8 months old.
Oh,
And as he's gotten more into teenage, he is totally unmanageable for someone like her. Totally. I mean, and it's nothing with aggression. He's just all over everything, and he just wants to climb, and he wants to play, and he needs to move around at all times. And she can't. She's physically compromised. She deals with chronic pain. And you get to that moment where you go, it is not a failure to redefine this relation. that you are not at this point, or you should perceive yourself at this point, not as his guardian, but as his long-term foster parent, where we just got to find him another home that fits him because it's the greater good.
Yeah.
She feels terrible because she can't give him what he wants. He needs things that he can't get. And I mean, that's more specific than what you were dealing with, but
Yeah.
that is always a thing where, as long as you don't bring him to the shelter and just overload them, but use them as a resource, and or local rescues as a resource, try to adopt him into a home that you know he will thrive in. This particular cat would do great with kids. He would do great with other cats. We know that. He just needs way too much stimulation than she can handle. Now, in your case that you're dealing with, it's the same but different.
Right.
Because like you said, it's about managing and redefining expectations.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a perfect home with a 2-year-old and a 19-year-old, by and large, you're sadly mistaken.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, and the other aspect of it that you didn't say is that usually I would say, okay, even with a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever, I mean, if they were in good health, they can still teach them a lesson. They can just still say, this is when you go too far, whack. This is, and he learns. And he goes, okay, how far can I push this? With a 19-year-old, they're not going to fight back.
Yeah,
You
no.
know? And it just becomes a constant source of stress, and they'll manifest physical illness a lot quicker than they would have. So, but it does come down to that bigger question that you and I and people like us have to deal with, which is, are we going to see that as a failure? You know, I think one of the things that was a drawback to doing that show for 10 years is that I think I fell into the trap, and obviously audience as well, that every case is going to wind up with a red bow on it. And that's that. And where I did work as hard as I possibly could, there were times, and we were truthful on the show, where we said, this is not fair to anybody in this home to keep trying to push the round cat into the square hole, you know.
Right.
And then you have to. So you're going for the separation at this point.
Yeah, I don't, and they're moving into a new house, a bigger house, which will help. I mean, their house is pretty big now, but they're moving into a bigger house where the space separation is going to be good. Like the older pair will have 2,000 square feet, and the young boy will have about 2,000 square feet. And there's a good place for a gate that they can put to keep them from actually having any contact. So I think it's going to be fine.
And then there's the other like pushy part of all of us sort of rescue workers. We're like, oh, well, then we can get another cat, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you know, I mean, he could use someone his own age or younger.
Yeah, that's true. That's possible. That's absolutely possible.
Your clients are like, oh my God, did he really say
Right,
that?
he's trying to shove another cat on me. Yeah, I think we'll let them wait till their 19-year-old passes, and then
Totally.
And then maybe look at that, because I don't think the husband would go for that right now.
Yeah, probably not.
So are people able to hire you for consults now? Are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, my schedule is a little crazy, so I think if the expectation is there that I can do it next week, I can't. But on my website, there's a link where people can sign up. Yeah.
Good. That's good. And then YouTube, how else can people find you these days?
I mean, I think we're doing our best to address all of the sort of generalities of life in YouTube. I think we've got close to 400 videos now that really run the gamut. I feel like I've done everything I can do to give the wider resources there. I think between YouTube and the books that we've published, and I feel like we've done a lot that way. So yeah, YouTube has been great. I mean, the community that we built there is pretty tremendous, and supportive. we don't get any of those YouTube trolls that want to say nasty things about cats. Well, now I put the idea out there, but yeah, I mean, it's there's plenty of great people there, and the community's growing, not just with me, but because YouTube gives you a much more direct plug into the global community. Because anybody, you got a phone, watch YouTube. You get this beautiful sort of global sense of what's going on. And we're also, Cat Camp had to take a kind of a hiatus. I mean, we were doing Cat Camp every year, and we had just branched out into doing other locations with it. And then the pandemic hit, and we had to go virtual for a little while. Then we took a break, and all of that was just reminding me of the global community, because bringing everybody in to celebrate was wonderful. And now we're going to go back and start doing that live again next year. And the live tour that got scuttled at the end of 2020, that's being rescheduled for next year as well.
Oh, good. Are you going to be at Global Pet Expo this year? 23.
Don't know. I don't know. If I'm summoned, I will go. Yeah, I never know. But yeah, if I don't know otherwise. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me know. I'm going to try to go this year. So let me know if you're there. Well,
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, the thing that I'm going to be doing a lot of is greater good charities and Jack's Galaxy Project work, and as much as I can cram in during the year, because it helps us sort of plant some feet into some of the things that we're thinking about for the future. So, plus we've been doing these amazing Good Fix programs, which are huge spay neuter athons that are happening right now. We've been concentrating on the Hawaiian Islands and the immense need to spay and neuter, especially community cats, but also just an enormous amount of cats. But the work that's being done, it's so inspiring, because the work that's being done by the vets who run this and the techs who run this, bringing in vets and techs from all over the country who volunteer their time, coming in there and just going to work. And we were just in Oahu last month, and in 4 days, spayed or neutered about, I think it was 2,000 cats.
wow.
And now we're going to go to Maui coming up. And there's the John R. Peterson Foundation, who is funding most of this, contributing about 3 to 5 years of support on each island.
Nice.
So the work that we do continues, but it's great work. Anyway, I got totally off topic. I forgot what we were talking about, but
Yeah,
that
no,
really
that's
is
great.
great.
Having gone there and seen their problem, and I mean, a bunch of reproducing cats on an island can be devastating to other wildlife, obviously.
Yeah.
And a real problem. And the last thing you want is them, putting cats on that list, on that invasive species list, because
Which has been done.
means, right?
It's such a drag, man. And I will say this, that is my, I mean, of course, cats at that scale will do damage. That's for sure. But they are also vilified in a way that the numbers don't support.
Right.
And on one of the islands we were on, there was just such ingrained bias that listening to the actual science behind it wasn't being heard. So it's really important that we get a handle on it. And that's just a microcosm, by the way. We see it happening everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, thanks to a couple of studies that from what I know were completely flawed. We're seeing, and Australia is a perfect example. We're seeing cats exterminated.
Yeah.
Because of the perception of what they do as opposed to the reality. I'm all for what Australia has said otherwise, which is just keep your cats indoors.
Mhm.
We're fine. Just don't let them free roam. Okay, that's a great compromise as far as I'm concerned. But you should keep your cats indoors. If you feel bad about it, do what we did and build a catio.
Build a catio.
Do something,
Yes.
take them out on harnesses. learn to compromise with the wildlife and the people like us who love the wildlife, who love the birds. Um, there are compromises to be had, but we have to act quickly so that, I mean, Oahu, conservatively, the guesses are between 200,000 and 300,000 free roaming cats on that one island. So
Wow.
the time is now, you know.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot. And everybody should have a catio.
You know, if
Everybody.
you own a home,
You-
you should have a
Right.
catio. I'm not saying you have to make it super. I'm pointing. We live in a 1,400 square foot house and an 800-foot catio
Right.
because you know the need is there. But anything that helps to expand the footprint of your home, especially if you have multiple cats, is just,
Yes.
and it's been made easy. There's prefab kits. There's people in certain places who kind of do it for a living.
Mhm, mhm.
We've given uh, plenty of resources. Um, yeah, do it.
Yeah, I know. We're trying to build a new home, and I think I have 4 catios designed into
There
the
you go.
house. So that
Amazing.
he can have lots of options, right?
I know you'll do it too.
Oh, yeah,
So
I will. And then I wanna organize a catio tour, like they do a
in
garden
Portland,
tours
was
and
it
stuff like
Portland?
that.
Did they do it in
They do?
Portland? Is that where it was? Or Seattle? I can't remember which. Where it's just this walking tour of catios, and man, that's great. It was wonderful too. Yeah, we did a video that was. We had asked for a call out from people just to show us their catios, and we did a video on it. It was gorgeous. I mean, some people, and again, when I say gorgeous, I mean the idea of being gorgeous too. That I don't care if it's like chicken wire in a box, killer. Do it.
Exactly. Yeah, because cats do like to be outside, where they can smell the air and see the birds fly and the mice run
Yeah.
around and all of that kind of stuff. They love that. But yeah, I love catios. We have a great big one too, and Dewey's gone out there and built these overhead catwalk for him and all these climbing things, and we
Beautiful.
carpeted a big pole so he can just climb all the way to
Oh
the
my God, you did better than we did, man. We just put the stuff around and let them go at it. But yeah, there's so many people out there, and they're on social media too, where you get the ideas from them. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, look at what they did here. I mean, we got the idea, and we're still buying the plant life, but of planting, the edibles for them and the catnip and the catmint and what each one of these herbs can do for your cats, and of course which ones to avoid, and the way they hung them and the way they planted them, and we get inspiration from each other, which is beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anything else you want to tell everybody before we wrap up?
I you know I one thing that I think is important, well, there are a few things. Embrace TNR, you guys. If you don't know what TNR is and you don't really have a hold on what community cats are and their benefit to your area, please look into it. There are organizations in just about every municipality now dedicated to the well-being of these community cats. So get involved one way or the other. The only other thing I would say also is uh, you might hear from both me and from Molly about sometimes about how hard it might be to integrate cats to other cats. We both have lots of resources on that, and I believe anyway, for the most part, cats should have other cats in the house. So don't be scared. We're here to help you. If you have any problems whatsoever, there are good ways to just do it right in the first place. But think about bringing another cat in your life.
I like that. I'm gonna go get Dewey. You can say it again.
Right on.
We've had a constant stream of fosters for Pico, and it's been wonderful. He absolutely loves it. And he just loves
Yeah.
everybody to play with. And he's a good teacher. He's a good teacher.
Good to have one of those.
Yeah. Friends of mine in Dallas had adopted a kitten that had been at the shelter, had been sick, gone into a foster home with no other kittens or cats. And I was really worried because we go and we stay with them sometimes with Pico. And I thought, oh, solo kitten, he hadn't seen other cats. This could be scary and ugly for him. Then one day they were, they were running around and playing. They
Oh,
were
that's
chasing
great.
each other and then chasing each other back. They just had a ball. So yes, it
You'd
can.
have to ask my guys. I mean, I'm sure they've had fosters they've loved and fosters they'd rather would not be here, but you can't love everybody, but uh, yeah, it's been a crazy couple of years with fosters, but it's a great experience, especially, my best feeling is when you take the ones that, especially kittens, who come to you completely shut down
Yeah.
and show them a world that is inviting and one where they can bloom a little bit. And then they start to do it. And you're like, oh my, this is the best work ever.
Yeah. Well, I had one that had come in the shelter at 8 weeks. It was kind of little on the young side to be returned into the field, but they were really unsocial kittens. They were probably maybe 9, 10 weeks when they came in the shelter. And so we worked with him in the BMOD program. So he got a little bit better, but he wasn't really quite there. And I brought him home. So, well, I'm just going to bring him home and get him past that point. And I realized some things that were really sad. Like he didn't know how to jump up on things. Here he'd been in the shelter 3 months, 2.5, three
Yeah.
months. So here he is now, a 4-month-old kitten who'd never jumped up in his life. And I was just so heartbroken. And so, of course, he got lots of jumping and lots of climbing and
Yeah.
the racing around and playing. And yes, it was totally fun to
It's,
see him jump up into my lap for the first time while I was at my computer. And I was like, that's awesome. Not only is he jumping, but into my lap and curling up and purring. It was just,
yeah. There was this couple, and these are the two who actually started this journey for me of writing this book, because they were hard work, but they were litter mates. One we knew would come forward and do her thing, and definitely non-trusting at first, but you can work with her. And the other totally shut down. Like, they were sharing space in the bathroom for a bit while they got acclimated, and she was just back. She was back on a shelf. She was hidden as much as she could be. And even though we didn't get her to the exact right place, and we kept passing her from foster to foster, by the way, and I would work with her remotely just to get them more of a range of experience. And we found the perfect home for these two. And I swear to you, I get pictures. She loves to send pictures, and they are home, and they are happy, and they are interacting in a way that they never would have done. But we set the table for it.
yeah.
And man, I mean, it is just the best feeling when you get those pictures. Just the best feeling. Yeah.
That is so much fun. Yeah. And so that's the other thing. Build a catio, get another cat if you only have one, and foster.
Foster.
Foster for your
Foster.
local shelters. They need you.
Yeah, listen, you guys, I mean, I would say this, like, if you're in a position where the lifetime commitment is something that makes you nervous, fostering rocks. And you'll get a lot of support from whichever org that you work with. And you get that feeling of having somebody around. And anybody, you know as well as I do that the foster numbers during the pandemic just went through the roof. And that's because we wanted that feeling of being a part of this, getting cats out of the shelter, and the benefit that everybody got from it, not just by, I got somebody with me, but also that feeling of, oh my God, it feels good to see someone go into the perfect home. And I helped do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Well, thanks for being with us today. I
My
love
pleasure.
catching up with you. We could talk for hours, of course, about
We
about
good.
cats and shelters and cat business, and hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up in person again sometime soon.
Yeah.
All
Amen
right.
to that.
And thanks for tuning in, everyone. We love to see you. And until next time, keep calm and purr on.